James, I have a question. And this is probably an age-old question that, really is fascinating that people ask. Is hate taught or are we born with hate?
Wow.
Blew your socks right off, did I not?
Yeah. I know that we are born with the capacity to hate. I think all of us have the capacity to hate. We're also born with a choice. We're really born with a choice. So it's not an excuse. So reason why I say that is I can't use it as an excuse and say I was born with hate.
Right, exactly. Because we were also born to love. We all, right?
With the capacity.
Because you go to the question: were we taught to love, or were we born to love? That's really the thing. We talk about emotions, James, and we've done multiple podcasts with emotions. Okay, we are born with our emotions, and our emotions tell us things. And hate is not one of those emotions. Honestly, it's not one of those emotions.
No.
So we were born, and that's the question. Are we taught to love? Or are we born to love, or are we taught to love? Are we born with hatred, or are we taught to hate? And the definition of hatred is intense hostility towards something or someone, right? Mm-hmm. Well, in order for us to look at what causes hate, there's a root of that. Mm-hmm. And it comes from the emotion of fear, insecurities, and our mistrust of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So in general, we talk about racism. Okay. Racism is caused toward a certain group of people based on their color of their skin.
That's
right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is it racism that they feel, or is it hate that they feel?
I don't know. Boy, you're asking some really deep questions.
I am, because here's the thing. My daughter had to do an e-learning today. And so one of her e-learning things was what is bias and what is unbiased, right? And so many times we take what is a bias situation and we turn it into an unbiased situation. And so she was trying to ask me, what's the difference between bias and unbiased? Bias is just an opinion. It's someone's opinion regarding something. That's bias. And we all have our own bias. We all have our own biased opinions, right?
It would be a limited perception.
Excuse me.
Limited
exactly.
To
it's our preference.
Limited to me.
It's limited to me, and it's our preference, correct?
Yes.
Unbiased is a proven fact. Mm-hmm. And it was really fascinating because my husband got a kick out of this one. One of the statements, so she was given 10 statements and it said to ask what is biased and what is unbiased, right? One of the statements said that the average man is at a height of 5 feet and 7 inches. And is that a bias or is that an unbiased? The average man is at a height of 5 feet 7 inches. Is that a biased statement or is that an unbiased statement?
Well, I would say it's an unbiased statement if it's based on fact.
Exactly. Then there was another question that said women need men to protect them. Is that a biased statement or an unbiased statement?
That way I would say, again, if it's based on fact, but that almost feels like an opinion from somebody.
It's an opinion. Yeah. It's a biased statement. That's what my husband got a kick out of. He said, "Yeah, that's hilarious." But my point being, okay, we're talking about hate. Are we born with it, or are we taught to hate? When our biased opinions become unbiased, meaning they become a fact to us.
Yes.
It creates fears and insecurities, and we feel threatened by other people if we don't understand them, because our bias stands in the way. It's now a fact. So we are now looking at everyone in this specific, this statement, in this opinion. Okay, for instance, if we were saying that women need men to protect them, that's a biased statement. But if we would take that and turn it into an unbiased statement, all right, in my own self, I'm putting it into an unbiased statement. So to me, it's a fact. It's no longer an opinion, it's a fact. Correct? So now I'm going to look through that lens to everything. So if I see women who are single, I'm going to be very hostile toward them because they're going against the very thing that I believe is a fact. Mm-hmm. Which hostility grows into hate. And so it goes back to the fact, are we born with hate or are we taught hate? I believe we are taught. Hatred is one of those things that we teach ourselves or we are taught. Mm-hmm. Because, again, it comes out of the fact that we don't know. We are hostile toward a certain group or a certain idea or a certain thing because we don't have all the information about it. And so it threatens. We feel that, again, fear is threatened, right? It comes out of our fear. We feel threatened and possibly insecure about this, that it's going to change our world or it may take our world. So we're going to be very hostile against it to keep it at arm's bay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I go back to the capacity. We're all built with the capacity to do greatness or to do total destruction.
It's our choice.
Human being.
It's our choice.
So in hate, we have, and I think another important thing is, what do we feed ourselves with? Mm-hmm. What do we choose? Okay, we can go in a little bubble, and we can allow, in our little bubble, have the TV come into our little bubble.
Exactly.
And depending on the biasness, back then, we used to say news wasn't biased. Well, now we have CNN, Fox News, all these. They're all biased. They have their own political biasness.
They have taken their biasness and turned it unbiased. So when you're watching Fox,
you're gonna
look at them as exactly, they're all biased. They're all on the same level. But you're gonna look at them and you're gonna say the Fox News is the truth.
Yeah. Based upon
CNN News is way off. Or if you're gonna look at it from CNN, you're gonna look at their bias and say, there's the truth. Facts. It's facts. They're the facts.
Yeah, based on a certain political party ideology.
Exactly. Which is all comes down to, is it biased or unbiased? Unbiased is facts. It can be proven.
But let's follow it through. If I continue to feed myself with one network and not look at anything else, I'm going to continue to believe I'm just going to have one central data coming in. So I'm making a choice not to look outside my bubble.
Exactly.
Where it's not safe.
Exactly, James. Now, let's take that one step further where I say we are taught to be hateful. Now, you're in your bubble, and you have this one bias that you have turned into unbiased. Now, everything that this bias say, that bad people or whatever it is, because you have limited yourself in your own perception, you have limited yourself. Now you're going to start feeling hostile towards certain ideas, certain people, certain things.
Or political parties.
Exactly. And you are being hostile. And so if I would ask you, what exactly are you being hostile toward them? Well, they're going to do this and this and this. Do you have any proof of that?
Well, they've done it in the past.
And show me where they've done it in the past.
And then I will bring history.
But that's the thing. You will bring history, but your history is still based on that bias.
It's based on the actions that they did negatively that they had the capacity to do.
Right. But again, it's based on bias. You're not going to bring me the full picture of history, are you? No. You're going to bring me the history content based on to support your what is bias, and now it's turned into unbiased, which unbiased is facts, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to go based on that to just show me where you're right and I'm wrong. But again, you're not showing me the whole picture. You're not going to bring me the whole picture.
Well, I can go into history and pick a certain either culture or ideology, and I can show you fact after fact of what is going to prove my biasness.
Exactly.
But it's not my biasness. I'm not going to tell you it's my biasness.
Of course.
I'm going to tell you it's fact. But and the real question then it comes down to is back to what you're going to. Is it my lens of the past or is it the true past?
Exactly true, because you know what,
By
James,
the way,
you and I,
lens.
we can be on two different belief systems, and I can do the very same thing, and I can prove myself to you too. I can constantly, but you know what? Are we going to get anywhere? No. You know why? Because all we're doing is justifying ourselves. We're chasing ghosts.
Well, and let's keep on going to what builds bias. One is what we just talked about, our bubble, and we're feeding ourselves in with knowledge that is
From one source.
Of ideology
Exactly.
or culture. Here's another one. My experience. So when you say is hate learned, also what feeds into my choice to have a capacity to hate is my unhealthy experiences I had.
Exactly.
I can talk to you about experience what it meant to live in a certain culture and how I was
Treated.
abused. And these people come from this certain culture or religion or whatever, and I can make a really strong case. And you can sit across the table from me and you can actually cry from my experiences because I feel them.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I'm very passionate about the abuse that I got from this particular culture or race.
Exactly.
And let's just say it's the culture. I have scars to show you what this particular culture and group of people did to me.
Right.
And I feel that heavy. It was unjust. And if I would share it with you, you sitting across the table from me definitely would have to be emotionally moved, right?
Well, that's absolutely true, because again, we all have compassion when we hear someone be totally abused by a group of people. It's always, like I said, it's one person against a group. We're always going to have compassion for that one person.
Yeah.
But let's also take a look.
Based on their experience of how they experience hate themselves.
Exactly.
And of course, we're going to want to hate the person, right?
Exactly.
Or the group of people.
Exactly. But then we're going to have to look at the group of people and look at them and say, okay, they too are reacting. Again, when we abuse someone, right? When we abuse someone, we're feeling less than. We also have insecurities. We also have fear. We have anger. So we're going to lash out in that. So it's a vicious cycle.
So then you answer the question the other way. We were born with hate. It didn't stop with us. It was back then. So
or it could be learned. Because see, it could have came generation passed down, right? And here's the thing of what I'm saying about that. If we were born with hate, then we kind of learn how to hate on our own, right? We kind of, but here's the thing. There can be generations. So, for instance, one generation, two families, right? First generation, something happened between the two of them. They become hateful. And the next thing you know, the third generation of both of these families hate each other and have no clue why. Mm-hmm. That would be learned. Mm-hmm. You're not born with it. You're taught.
It would be the Hatfields and McCoys.
Exactly. And by the third time of the third generation, they still hate each other.
Yeah.
Which then goes back to the same thing. So this is where we can say it's been learned, because it goes back to where you were talking one time, James, about pot roast, right? So when our mom made a pot roast, they cut off the ends. When our grandma made a pot roast, she cut off the ends. So when I make the pot roast, I cut off the ends. I don't know why I'm cutting off the ends. The reason why my grandma did it in the beginning was because the pot roast didn't fit, so she cut off the ends. My mom saw that, so she thought that's how you make pot roast, right? So she cut off the ends. I come to my side. That's how you make pot roast, so I cut off the ends. When someone asks me, why do you cut off the ends? I don't know. I did because my mom did it, because my grandma did it.
That poor pot roast.
I know. But that's the same thing with hate, right? If you have a generation's hate where two families come together and they're full of hate. In the beginning, they're full of hate, right? Gets passed down generation. By the third generation, you can come up there and ask them, why do you hate them? I don't really know. Well, I mean, because they're here. No, seriously, why do you hate them? Well, I don't really know. Hate is taught. Hate is learned.
So when we look at the past, do we look at the past for a victim, for justification, or do we try to make retribution? In other words, we want the people, our forefathers, pay us back for the things we did to them. In other words, hold them accountable. Is that one of the reasons why we look in the past?
No, we look in the past, James, to learn from it.
And how do we learn from it?
How do you learn from it? Okay, like I said, again.
But sometimes you can look in the past and it looks like the same things happen and we haven't changed. Because it will trigger your emotions.
Because that is called breaking generational curse.
Right.
Generational chains, breaking generational curse, generational chains. Again, if you continue to look in the past and justify yourself and say, well, because again, same thing with the pot roast. Okay, my grandma did it, my mom did it, so I'm going to do it, so I'm going to pass it on to my daughter. But my daughter says, no, I that's a lot of wasted meat. I want to do this here. So she's going to break that chain, right? And is it going to be for the better? Absolutely. So if we say we want to make a better world, we can't erase our history to make a better world. We have to go back to our history to realize what did we do wrong back there so that we can learn from that and move forward.
Or do we erase our history?
You can't erase your history either. Yeah, it's always part of it.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many things that are not healthy about our history. We can't erase it. We can't go back and fix it. We can't make our history pay our money for all the bad things they did. I mean,
no, it really
you
comes
go
down
back
to
your parents for all the bad things they did. You can't go collect on them, right?
Well, no, that's true. But it really comes down to the fact that, okay, again, it says that today is my day, and it's personal responsibility on me.
You said a bad word.
I did, I know. I said a curse word. It's personal responsibility on me.
And accountability and all that.
Exactly. Because, again, I can't change anything about my past. I can't change anything about around me. But I can change me. And how am I going to do that? Okay, if I feel myself accessing hatred towards someone else or toward something or toward a group of people, I need to ask myself, why am I feeling this hostility toward them? I don't even know them.
Yeah.
How do we have a right to hate someone that we don't even know?
Ooh.
Is that fair?
The right word came in.
Yeah. Is that fair? How do we have the right to hate someone if we don't even know them? Is that fair?
Well, it's based on our knowledge that we took in our bubble.
Right, but we're not.
I'm just saying.
Right, yeah. We don't have. That's not really a fair judgment. That's not really a fair thing to do to a person if you or an idea, right? Or I hate this, I hate that. That's not really a fair thing to do for yourself or to yourself when you don't even know these people. You don't even know these ideas. You don't even know, because these ideas, change is never easy. But these ideas could change and could actually make the world a better place. And you know, the truth of it is everything that our phone, everything we have in our hands today was a new idea at some point in time. And guess what? There was always haters. Why does hostility come? From our own fears and our own insecurities and our own mistrust of ourselves. When we know who we are, when we truly know who we are, we're not going to feel threatened or hostile toward any ideas or any people, because we're going to be able to look at those ideas from a logical perspective, and we're going to say, you know, maybe that is better. I can definitely see where that can work. Or maybe, you know what? You're going to actually be able to address it with no emotions, but address it with logic and say, you know, maybe you want to rethink this.
Well, you talked earlier about fear. So, I think there's two threads. The one thread, we're not scared of necessarily people, races, ideology. The one thread is we're scared of change.
We are. That's really what it all comes down to.
Something different, something change.
Yeah.
So that is a normal fear. That is something I believe we have a choice, and that's our greatest fear of change, our comfort zone.
Exactly.
But then there's another fear that I want to talk about, and that's the fear of losing the good stuff, the values. There's a fear of change also. We can lose the values, the core principles that human race was built on. It could be a distortion. It could be a destruction. So core values, there are certain things that change brings about. And I will be really honest in it. In the 60s, there was a lot of change that happened in the 60s. And, of course, I'm 60 years old now.
That was way before my time, so
Yes.
I wouldn't know.
But there was elements of the 60s that I think there were some positive things in the 60s, but there was also things in the 60s that changed. There was a revolution. And I think a lot of it was, more follow your feelings. If it feels good, do it. Rock and roll and however you want to, whatever behaviors you want to look at. But there was also a rebellion against authority that happened in the 60s. That was change. It was a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
That also, I believe, is a healthy fear of change because it takes away who we are as people and as fearfully, wonderfully made.
That's true.
So, and then how do you combat that? I get the one part where, yes, evolution, we have to change for the good.
See, James, here's the thing. Okay, how do I combat that? All right, when I know who I am. Yeah. When I know 100% who I am. See here, what you're talking about, that fear, exactly. So let's just take it into an aspect of faith, right? Okay, there's one element right there in faith where hatred can evolve, right? Hatred and fear comes out. So because your faith is completely different from my faith, I can't even talk to you. I'm going to be very hostile towards you. Why is that? Goes back to your insecurity. Because I'm not solid in my faith. So I'm terrified. That's the fear. I'm afraid that if I sit across the table and talk to you, you could persuade me into your faith. Does that make sense? So if I know who I am and I'm very solid in who I am, very solid in my core values, the truth is when we see our core values as a society continue to deteriorate, that's true. But you know what? That's a great opportunity for us to continue to stand strong and build character. Doesn't mean we have to be hateful toward people, right? It gives us opportunity to build character. Because at some point in time, everyone is going to want that respect. We were created to have human respect. We were all created for that. All right. So if morals and all that continue to deteriorate, at some point in time, we're all going to crave that respect. So we can all still come together on that respect.
So, yeah, so you say the word faith. So
that was just one example, James.
Yeah. But no, I like the word faith because I think that is a really huge core of it. And it's faith in yourself, faith in humanity.
Exactly.
You never lose faith of a person.
No.
And it's faith in God, something bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
So through all the changes and for good or bad or the history, what stands through it all is faith in those three.
It does, and that's the thing. Okay, why we, again, like I said, hate is taught, right? So therefore, I can break the chains of hate. I don't have to hate people or hate things or hate ideas just because that's how I was raised or that's the group that I was in. I don't have to do that. I can make that choice to change, because again, when we change, when we're actually being confident in ourselves and we no longer are hostile toward these new ideas or these people or anything like that, we can learn from each other. We can learn great big ideas. Eleanor Roosevelt says it really great, okay? Great people discuss ideas. Small-minded people discuss people. And that's the thing. Exactly what you said earlier, James. We were created for greatness, but it is a choice. It is a choice. Within all of us, we were created for greatness, but it is a choice. And the choice comes from the fact that saying, I'm not going to be hateful. I'm choosing not to be hateful. I'm choosing not to be hostile. And when I ask myself, why am I being hostile? Why am I being hostile toward this or toward these people or toward this idea? Why am I being hostile? Ask yourself that. And it really comes down to the fact, what exactly do I feel threatened by? What am I feeling threatened by? And what insecurities is this bringing up? What insecurities is this bringing up? Because when I can conquer those, I can sit in the table and I can listen to any ideas. I can listen to any people. I can speak to anybody. It's a choice. And through that, we start seeing a world actually becoming a better place to live for all people.
So let's test that out. So if you feel your safety of your children, you feel your safety is at threat, you're threatened by your safety in your children. Uh-huh. So what's the response to that? Because, again, those are healthy fears. We all...
James, here's the thing. Okay, if I feel threatened, if my children's safety is threatened.
Yes, and that's a huge piece.
Exactly. If my children's safety is threatened, I'm not going to be hostile toward whatever's threatening that safety.
Show me the two paths.
Let me tell you that, okay? So, for instance, let's just take an example of a dog. I have two children, and a dog is coming toward my two children, right? Am I going to hate that dog? No. I'm going to protect my children, but I'm not going to hate that dog. Okay, that's protection. That's a healthy access of fear. That's a healthy access of fear. Now, when I'm accessing the hostility, the unhealthy access of it, okay? Again, my two children are here and a dog is coming after my children. I'm going to shoot that dog before it even comes near me, only to find out that dog wanted to come up and lick my children's face. That's the difference.
That's a beautiful analogy.
That's the difference. When I'm accessing healthy, I'm going to see the true threat, okay? It's not the dog. It's not my children. I'm going to see the true threat. But when I'm accessing hatred, I'm accessing hostility, I'm not going to see the true threat, and I'm going to react. And like I said, I'm going to shoot and kill the dog, and all the dog wanted to do was come lick my children's face.
That's a beautiful analogy.
That's the difference.
That was very good. And that really goes back to the start of our conversation. When our biases get to the place where it's so close-minded.
Where it becomes unbiased.
When it becomes, yeah.
Because an unbiased means it's a fact to us. It's no longer preference. It's no longer opinion. Yeah. Unbiased means it's a fact, right? A fact. When we take our biases, they are biases, and we turn them into facts. We turn them into unbiases. Go ahead.
Then is when we start walking down the path of hate where it controls us.
Yeah.
And then we are fighting so many ghosts, so many nice, we're fighting ourselves.
We're fighting ourselves, James,
and then we build another wall,
opportunities.
and we build another brick in our cocoon, and then we take in another CNN or Fox News information to really validate why we should be this angry old person, and I'm using the word as a metaphor,
right?
Because it will age you.
It will age you, but more importantly, James, it will eat at your soul.
Yeah.
It will totally eat at your soul because, again, we weren't created to be in prisons. We weren't created to be in these jails, and that's what we do. We put ourselves in these prisons. We put ourselves in these jails. When our bias becomes unbiased, and what does that mean? Bias is a preference or an opinion, and it becomes a fact. And again, remember, facts can only be proven.
Mm-hmm. And then now we look at the dog story in a healthy way. You look at the 60s. There was a revolution. There were some positive things out of it. Mm-hmm. There also was some things that were dangerous, exactly what you say with your dog. But we won't know that unless we remove our own biases.
There you go.
And get off that track.
There you go. Yep.
Because, again, were we, go back to your question, were we born with hate or did we learn it?
Exactly. And James, I just wanted to end with this here. Okay. I had a most valuable lesson when I was in 8th grade on exactly this. So the 8th grade teacher, the class that she had currently was just painting her as being this mean person, right? She was just awful and mean, and she was just grumpy and all this different stuff, okay? And so I just told my dad, I said, please let me go to another school. I do not want to go to the school. And my dad said, okay, you know what? You're going to go to this school, and if you find out that she is what the other students were saying that she is, then you can go to another school. Okay. So basically what he was telling me to do is give her a blank slate and allow her to mark it up based on her. Just me and her. Not what the students did, but me and her, right? And she turned out to be my favorite teacher. She turned out to be my favorite teacher. Okay. The flip side of that coin. She was at the age of retirement, and the class before had driven her to such a situation that she herself was going to retire. Like, I was not going to have her. She herself was thinking of retiring. But then she said, no, I'm going to give it one more time. I'm going to go one more year before I retire. And she was very blessed because she loved our class. That's what I'm talking about. It's a choice. It's a choice. I had a biased opinion of this teacher based on what I was hearing the other students experience, what you talk about experience, how they experienced her, right? But when I gave her a clean slate and allowed her to mark it up, she became one of my favorite teachers. And it was the same way for her. She was ready to retire. She was at the retirement age. She could have retired, and I would have never had her. But she herself chose no. She's not going to allow these students to rob her from one more year of teaching. And so she did. And like I said, she loved our class. Our class loved her. It was amazing. But that's what I'm talking about. It's a choice. You miss the opportunities. When you put yourself into your bias and you make your bias become unbiased, you miss so many opportunities to learn and grow and have great experiences because your own bias is blocking that.
And so we'll end today with, what are your opportunities and what has kept you from seeing your opportunities?
Exactly, James.
James at orangeroseservices.com. Email me or go to our website, orangeroseservices.com, and have a great week. But most of all, look for the opportunities.
I agree, James.